Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a very special show as myself, Dan Bardell, is joined by Jacob Tanswell to discuss Ollie Watkins. A lot of discourse around him after Saturday's game. So Jacob and I are getting together to discuss that noise. Obviously, potentially, this could become very void, this video, due to Villa having a game this evening, Wednesday night. It's Wednesday morning. We're recording. I mean, hopefully it does become void and Ollie Watkins scores a hat-trick and everyone gets off his back a little bit. But yeah, potential that this video becomes dated very, very fast. This show is sponsored as ever by Luke Roper. Get 20% off everything they have to offer with the code TVV20. Right then, Jacob, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Yeah, cold cleared up. I got to the Ipswich
That's the
game.
game.
Yeah, enjoyed that. Well, enjoyed before the game. Didn't enjoy the game as much. But yeah, really good, thank you.
Yeah, I've seen some friendly names in the chat. AVFC Stato. Hopefully, you'll provide us with some stats through the show. That would be handy, Dale, if you fancy doing that. Ronan Ward as well, a regular watcher, gaming and stuff, and Nick Jones in the chat early this morning as well. Apologies again for the thumbnail. We tried to do the thumbnail. Those watching on YouTube, I've realised quite promptly after seeing that thumbnail that I could really do with getting some sleep. So next time I put my face on the thumbnail, I'm going to make sure I have a good night's sleep before it appears. And Jacob, we're both writers now, really, aren't we, as well? That's the main thing to say going into this.
I was going to say, I looked on your Twitter bio today and I was supposed you have put writer in there. You could do everything.
Could I get away with putting writer in there, do you think?
I think write a few more articles first and then I think you can say you can be established. But yeah, you're coming for my job, aren't you, at the moment, Dan? So I need to watch out.
I'd like to join you. That's the ambition here. I'd like to join. I don't want to replace anyone here. Don't tread on anyone's toes. But hopefully Villa do so well that they want to employ another full-time Aston Villa writer, and they'll see my Substack, which I started yesterday for those that don't know, and I have released an article about Ollie Watkins. I'll put the link in the description, maybe, if people fancy it. Let's see what's going down there. Right, Jacob, here to talk about Ollie Watkins then. And I've got to admit, I'm always staggered by the harsh level of some of the criticism of footballers, but especially someone who's about to become our record Premier League scorer, someone who fired Villa to the Champions League, goals, assists galore last season. Record's actually pretty good this season as well, considering it's being classed as an off season. And I've got to admit, the bit that probably annoyed me the most, and I'm not sat here saying I'm right, these things are all just my opinion, the same as everyone else. So I'm not the oracle. I don't know everything. I can only speak for my opinion, and I'm sure you'll do the same here, is that I saw the quote, "We sold the wrong striker." And I remember seeing that quote when Danny Ings got sold. And obviously that was proven to be completely false. What do you make of that? Because I think the club are quite happy with what they've done, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And like Emery said in his press conference yesterday, which the quotes were embargoed till 10:30 last night, Villa haven't got a team that has huge scorers or huge assisters. And this is where the issue is right now in terms of the broader attacking output. They'd rather get goals from different areas across, in different positions. With obviously Watkins having a great supporting cast around him, he's still doing very well, but not in compared to last year. And the thing about Watkins is he creates and has a disproportionate high number of high quality chances in front of goal. So if you have quite a lot, you're going to miss quite a few, and therefore the misses are going to stand out. If you can go into XG straight away. He should be on 14, maybe 15 goals this season. At the moment, he's on 11. So he's underperforming that, but still he's on a good number. I think his misses, obviously, they've been quite stand out in this season, but there's more of a glare on him, I think, because basically the supporting cast, bar Rodgers, and now Duran's gone, they're not scoring as many. So if Bailey was chipping in like he did last year, if you had a Douglas Luiz type, if McGinn was scoring a few more.
McGinn hasn't scored a Premier League goal this season.
Well, exactly, and he scored 6 last year. So if you had those, add those in, then the spotlight would have been on Watkins after every game or after every draw or drop points. So yeah, I think he's doing very well. He's still a really top striker, but at the same time, coming from a different viewpoint, you can see why people are frustrated with him, because he does have quite a few. He does generate high quality chances and he does miss some, but that's the type of striker he is.
And I would always argue that he gets into positions and has chances that other strikers wouldn't get due to the type of player he is. And he's actually a lot more intelligent than I think he gets credit for. I think his link-up play is very, very good now. Has come on leaps and bounds. under Emery. I think he's being asked to play a slightly different role this season to last, to compensate for Rodgers' driving run through the middle and create space for him. So I think he maybe sometimes doesn't seem as involved, but actually he's pulling wide to create space for another player who's been a real star for Villa this season. So I think he facilitates Morgan Rodgers quite well with that movement. But with the missed chances, the favourite thing I see on, well, not my favourite, ironically, my favourite thing that I see on social media every time he misses a chance is Duran would have scored that. Key thing for me is John Duran didn't get into those positions. He doesn't have the intelligence of movement of Ollie Watkins. He doesn't have the work ethic of Ollie Watkins. So Ollie misses so many chances because he creates so many chances with his movement and his intelligent play. That's how I always look at it. And he's surpassed 20 big chances missed this season. I think kind of reference Haaland's on about 18. I think I saw. You know, everyone raves about Haaland and his finishing, and obviously he's a brilliant centre forward. There's not too much difference in those high quality of chances missed. And you know, Man City haven't had a brilliant season this season either. That they've been. But I just think with everything taken into context, surely people can understand why it is that he's missed so many big chances, and the fact that he gets in the positions that others wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Dan. I think it's important to say that he could have gone in January, right? If Al Nassr didn't come in for him, Al Nassr did come in for Duran, you know, there's a real good possibility that Watkins would be an Arsenal player right now. So it's not a case of Villa was so staunchly wanted to keep him. Of course, they wanted to keep him, but at the same time, with PSR and everything, if the offer came in, they would have sold him. So you know, Emery still wanted Watkins more than Duran, but at the same time, it was a case of who they got money for, who was the interest in, and as it happened, you know, it was Duran. You got also people forget that Duran and Watkins are very different players, right? And like you mentioned, Watkins does his best movement in that left inside channel because he's right footed. He can cut inside on his right foot, like he did at Exeter, like he did at Western-super-Mare on loan so many years ago. He built himself up in that channel there. Duran's left footed. So, and he'd rather be in the middle or coming off the right, and he can't do that in Emery's system because Morgan Rodgers, you know, occupies that space. So they're completely different strikers, and who you probably say fits the current build-up structure is Watkins every day, you know, in and out possession. Duran can be, he might have scored a few more goals this year if he had Watkins' chance, absolutely. But I don't think he would have got those chances, like you say, in the first place because he's a completely different striker. He hasn't got the intelligence yet. He's still very young. And we're also judging Duran of quite a small sample size still. You know, we like to talk about him, but he's barely had a full season where he's played regularly. So we don't really know what he's like, where Watkins is 29 now. You know, he's got a huge sample size of evidence. And he does create, but he also crucially does score. If he was missing a lot of chances, you know, and he scored 3 or 4 this season, then I can understand a lot more people's arguments. But he is scoring big goals, but he needs probably more support around him. So, you know, the spotlight doesn't glare as, you know, harshly as it does.
Yeah, David Ladbury says here, ask yourself how many other strikers would get that tap in off the free kick. And it was a real poacher's goal from Ollie Watkins. And I think that was the thing I found most at the weekend. I don't remember in the game. I think he missed that one-on-one in the first half, which I don't think was an easy chance. There was a lot of bodies around him. He kind of made his way through on goal, but hadn't fully got through the traffic. So I don't think that's an easy chance in all honesty. And he's on his left-hand side. And to be fair, he's pretty both-footed now, isn't he? But I don't think that's as easy chance as some people were making out. But he's getting criticism. He's the only person who's put the ball in the back of the net in Ipswich going for Villa. There was others that were very guilty of missing chances that I don't see getting called out. It always seems to be that the attention is around Watkins misses. But Villa as a team, as you've said, haven't been prolific. And that was a real poacher's goal at the weekend. Stayed very, very alert. I don't think that's an easy finish, despite it looking like a tap-in. He's had to think and adapt very, very quickly there. So with all that in mind, I just find the criticism quite strange on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's probably more scenarios where I think criticism would have been warranted. You know, I can think of the Leicester game where you missed that from really close range. The Celtic
Arsenal
game,
at home.
you know, but also at home, the Celtic game as well. Well, I don't think he had that chance, but it was quite a difficult chance. But you know, Villa aren't clicking up front or clicking in the league in general. They're 17 goals down on where they were at this time last year. They conceded 6 more than they have. So naturally, there's more of a spotlight on the attacking front. And Watkins, as I say, he's a player that has always missed chance, but he always has scored a lot of chances. And for him, he's targeting 20 league goals this season, and he's on 11 now.
I'd back him to get there.
It would take some going, but he got 19 last year, so who knows? Maybe he beats his record from last year, and all of a sudden he's had a better season than last year in numbers, and will score crucial goals towards the end of the season and the running. So, yeah, I think he's obviously a really good talent. If you look at his all-round play as well, he doesn't get as many touches as he used to when he used to drop deeper, because what Emery doesn't want him to. He wants him to average 15 to 20 touches a game, stay in between the posts, etc. But he's still, in the top 12% of strikes from Europe's top five leagues for assists, top 14% for expected assists. So he's still, involved in play in some extent, and he has a real good impact in the final third.
Do you think fans are always? I wrote in my piece that. It feels weird saying that, to be honest. I wrote that fans are, in general, football fans, they're always after the next big thing. They're always after the shiny new toy. And I think John Duran was that shiny new toy at the start of the season. And in fairness to Duran, he did a lot with the minutes that he had. I think 12 goals. I think he got in all competitions for Villa. So, it's a really good return for the minutes that he was offered. But I always look at it as if to say, well, yeah, off the bench, that was working really, really well. So, in a way, why would you ever change that? Because that's the aspect of Villa's game, using him as an impact player, using him as a finisher. That's really, really, really working. But I can't deny that, look, his record was absolutely outstanding. As someone who's not a Villa fan, do you think, in general, as football fans, we are always waiting for that shiny new toy? And do you think Watkins maybe doesn't get the credit for what he does because he's been at Villa for a fair while now, and that it gets overlooked because he's been there a long time? Fans are always thinking, well, we need to move on to the next thing. We need to move on to the next thing. But actually, if you look around the Premier League and look at teams when they've tried to sign strikers or they have signed strikers, a lot would kill to have Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I wrote a piece last year when he was in form. I said he's probably the second best number 9 in the league, but after Haaland, he's probably not that now. But he's certainly, in the good first handful. I think ideally, in an ideal scenario, you would have kept Duran, you would have kept Watkins. PSI would have been an issue, and Duran would have been happy, or you would had to have 2 to 3 years learning, incremental game time. I think that would have been a great plan, and then you can move Watkins on, maybe even in the summer, and had Duran to have a free go at it. But he's been patient at the same time, where he wasn't patient. So there's always going to be a bit of a fight between who would you rather have. And when the big came in for Watkins, when before the Celtic game, fans were outside being asked by TV, radio, who would you rather have? It was almost like a cultural war in a way. But with Duran, and it's this big, adage in cricket is you're always a better player when you're out the team. When you're not playing, you always think, supporters or fans think, oh yeah, he's a brilliant team. Almost like your stock and reputation goes up when you don't play, because that people think he could have made a big impact in whatever game. For me, Watkins was always going to be the number 9. I always felt if it's going to be a fight between the two on an even playing field, Emery would have preferred to keep Watkins because he's more reliable, as we say, and there were too many unknowns with Duran. With Watkins, we know what he's like now. There's nothing more for him to surprise us. And right now, at 29, he's still maintaining a very high level, even if he does miss a lot of chances, which I can understand why supporters get frustrated. But that's where you need, as I keep saying, other players to step up.
Yeah, and I think people, look, as I say, everyone is entitled to their opinion. I'm not knocking anyone's opinion. I'm disagreeing with it, but I'm not knocking it because everyone's entitled to the opinions that they have. John Duran wanted to go. John Duran has gone to play in Saudi Arabia, which tells me absolutely everything that I need to know about John Duran. And some of the stories I've heard about him are absolutely crazy. And they've come from reliable places, from people that would know. And I'm sure you've heard similar stories over time, Jacob, that can't obviously be reported on. But if John Duran wants to leave, I don't get the loving, because he's been itching to go from the minute that he got to the club, really. Whereas Watkins has given everything from Villa from minute one since he arrived in the club. Probably only had one off season in the whole time that he's been here. His second full season, probably just when Gerrard arrived to replace Dean Smith. I don't think he had a brilliant season that campaign. But other than that, his record has been outstanding, and he's about to become. He'll probably do it this season, Villa's record Premier League goal scorer, which I thought was going to end up just being Gabby forever, because it just never seemed to be able to surpass that record. So with all that considered, I just don't really get it. John Duran was flirting with other teams from the minute he arrived at Villa.
Yes, and we got to understand it. The risk that Villa couldn't really, feel like they could have was it. Let's say Watkins did leave this month, and Duran, was the star striker. That's not to say Duran would have been happy for the next 6 years and carried on. He would have flirted and would have pushed to go in the summer or every single transfer window after that. So, he was in it for himself, rightly so. And to some extent, he wanted the glory, he wanted the money, he wanted the reputation. So it's not. I quite don't understand why the loving and the loyalty from certain sectors of the fan base when he showed little loyalty and would have showed little loyalty in response. I think with Watkins as well is you've got to remember Arsenal was his childhood club. He's 29. He's probably not going to have that much of an opportunity to go there again. But at the same time, he's managed to get his head down in the last couple of weeks after not being able to go move because obviously Duran left, and he scored. The other day, and I think it's all round play since that story came out. It's been okay, it's been good.
Yeah.
And that shows the attitude and the mentality of the guy to get him his head down. And as Emery and as his coaches keep on saying, he's almost the guy that sets the standards in the changing room when it comes to training, doing extra bits after training with Rodri, the individual coach, and really applying himself.
Yeah, and a few years ago, probably around this stage of the season, Watkins did go on an incredible run, and I don't think it was a coincidence that it happened when Danny Ings has departed. Do you think that he's capable of doing that again in the second half of the season? And do you think it alleviates a little bit of pressure now that technically Villa have brought in 3 players that should really chip in with goals: Rashford, Marlon, and Asensio? And with Asensio on the pitch when he plays as well, you think he might get some really good openings now?
Yeah, I think with Asensio especially, that'll be good because he can give you that final pass. With Rashford, I'm really intrigued to see how them two play because, we saw a second half against Ipswich, Rashford was really wide, which an Emery left wing doesn't usually do. They normally in the 10. But Watkins and Rashford do kind of gravitate in the same position in that inside left channel. So it's interesting to see how they can play together whilst both of them basically occupying the same space.
Rashford was very wide, wasn't he?
He was
I haven't
very,
spoken to you since. He was very, very wide, which was
very wide.
a complete departure from what player playing in that
Absolutely.
position.
And then the left back in Maatsen would invert, so you kind of had a bit more balance.
Vanilla.
But at the same time, I'm not sure if Rashford being so wide suits Villa. But at the same time, if he does play in that inside left channel, that's where Watkins makes his run. So it'd be very difficult. But I think with Asensio especially, Watkins should have obviously more of a service. And I don't think Villa don't always create huge chances anyway. But Watkins is the type of striker that does have a lot of chances. So I think if you look on paper, he creates more chances himself than a Haaland does or a Chris Wood does, but he just misses more, and that's just a simple fact of the matter. I can understand why fans are annoyed with him, and this is not a complete. Ollie Watkins is absolutely fantastic, and everyone else is wrong if they have a different opinion. I can understand their viewpoint, but at the same time, where Villa are right now, and how he's been in the last 2.5 years since Emery's joined, I think he's a really good player, and he suits what Villa have been and what they're trying to do in the short and long term.
Villa could, I think, by the way, I completely agree with everything that you've just said there. Villa, basically, they weren't great defensively last season, but they were definitely a fair bit more stable than they have been this season. At the moment, it does literally feel like they'll concede every game. Usually it feels like they'll concede more than one in every game, which makes life difficult. Do you think there's anything in the fact that Villa are just so bad at the back this season in terms of the goals they can see? In fact, I don't even think we're bad at the back. I just think every first shot seems to go in, which maybe skews the numbers a little bit. But we're not where we were defensively over the last couple of years. That under Emery, that's for sure. Do you think that almost creates more pressure on a centre forward? Do you think Ollie Watkins is aware that, oh my God, if I don't take every single chance I have, we aren't going to win today?
I'm not sure if he thinks that subconsciously. I'm very careful not to try and second guess what goes on inside a footballer's head.
As someone who used to be a footballer, I thought I'd come to you, Jacob.
But I don't think it doesn't inspire confidence, does it? 3 clean sheets in 25 games, and the fact that you probably need to score 3 goals just to be pretty comfortable and pretty assured of 3 points. I think there is an onus. I think there's more of a spotlight on Watkins, right? If you were better defensively, let's say you were Scott Parker's Burnley, right? You've kept 10 clean sheets or whatever.
I mean, more than that now.
If you're like that, then strikers can think, okay, even if I miss, I've still got a pretty solid base at the back. It's not going to cost the team. It's not going to cause the team to lose the game. But with Watkins, he's thinking, okay, I'm probably the only regular goal scorer in the team now. Ross Barkley's the third highest scorer, and he's been injured for 6 weeks and made 3 starts. I'm the only reliable scorer. Villa's gate build-up plan is basically fashioned around me finishing these chances. At the back, we have 10 different centre-back partnerships with the defender going off injured every first half of every single game.
Ridiculous.
What's going on? And it probably does cause a bit of a flux, right? So I think Villa have got the old and the kind of the worst issue to have in football, and not although it's not too dramatic, is they can't really stop conceding goals, and they don't score as many as they did last year. So there's naturally going to be a regression from last season's performance. But I'm just we're in February now, and I'm just kind of waiting, Dan, for it to click. When is it going to click in both boxes? Can the defence go back to how they were in Emery's first half of the season, or is that too far away?
Yeah, that's why I think it's always funny to single out individuals. It's never been something I've done generally. In all honesty, I've probably had the odd occasion where I have done it. I definitely did it with Steven Gerrard, the manager, where you single out an individual. But I think everyone can garner why I did that. But obviously, as a collective at the moment, especially in the Premier League, I think everything else you can put to one side. But in the Premier League, collectively, Villa aren't doing enough. It isn't just a case of Watkins has missed this or Watkins has missed that. The defence has done this. The defence has done that. I think as a collective, as a team, and I include the management and the coaching staff in that, who I absolutely adore, and I adore all the players as well. But I think if everyone at Villa looks at themselves in the mirror in the Premier League at the moment, they think, are we doing enough collectively at the moment? Are we doing all the things that a team that wants to be in the top 4, top 5 should do? And they're probably not. And there's caveats to it. Like the game is definitely not helpful. It's not conducive to being good at the back. But I still think we should be better than what we are. But I think, it sounds. I don't want to. If that sounds like I'm calling out Emery and the players and everyone at the club, and I'm really, really not doing that, because, as I say, I love them and I'm really appreciative of what they've done. But collectively, for the quality I think we have, we're not doing enough collectively. I'm basically trying to say.
No, absolutely. Emery, it was funny yesterday. He was quite performative in his gestures. He was saying, if we judge the season on the FA Cup, no problem. If you judge it on the Champions League, no problem.
Brilliant, yeah.
If we judge it on the Premier League, and that's how we think of it. It's important to be nuanced. You can't say they've been awful, but you can't say they've been good either. How many games have you felt they've played? Villa played really well for 90 minutes. I can think of the Man City game, maybe, but even then they could see the begins. I'm struggling to think. And does a team that only plays well for 90 minutes on a handful of occasions deserve, or you think they can justify a top 4, top 5 finish? I think it'd be difficult, even if they go on a really good run towards the end of the season. So yeah, I'm not sure. Apart from the Man City game, nothing else springs to mind really. Maybe the Brentford game. I don't know.
The league, I'm struggling in the league. I really am. Champions League, FA Cup. Yeah, Bob's your uncle. I can think of it. Yeah. But there's been halves where they've been really good. Obviously, when they went 2-0 down against Arsenal and they came back in the second, that was a really brilliant display. Really show of that might be a turning point. Actually, at the time, Watkins obviously scored a great goal in that game. There isn't really two halves. Arguably, the Arsenal game on the first game of the season, they were pretty good for 90 minutes, but they lost 2-0.
Yeah, I could actually probably the Arsenal game, the last one they lost at home, was probably their best home performance, right?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
So yeah, I think it's really it's something to think about. But at the same time, Watkins is going to break this record, and there's going to be big celebrations, isn't there? And yeah, he's been his service has been fantastic to Villa, since he joined. I remember actually when Villa signed him 6 years ago, and what was it, 28 million? And I was around my friend's house, and I was thinking, oh my god, that's so much money.
But actually,
for a championship striker, but he's proven himself. He's been a brilliant return on his investment. I think he's got a lot more he can achieve, and the guy, he's kind of a little bit of a late bloomer in a way. So I think he's got 2 to 3 real years at least high level in him. And how many goals can he score for Villa? If he stays beyond the summer.
Yeah. Just finally, before I let you go, do you get the sense that Unai Emery still believes in Ollie Watkins. I guess if he didn't, he wouldn't have sold John Duran. But do you get? I've always thought Unai absolutely loves Ollie, the way he speaks about him. I've probably not felt actually the same way this season when he does speak about him. I don't know whether that's a man management thing that he's trying to tap into him. I don't know. But do you get the impression of someone who spends a lot of time at Bodymore? Do you think Unai still has the same belief in Ollie and believes that in the second half well, it's not even the second half of the season now, is it? It's the final third of the season that he's going to click and he's going to get back to what he was
definitely.
last season?
I think there's also, as we said, and we've not touched on this show, but there's been caveats to this season. A real disrupted Europe preseason, lots of injuries. He's been carrying him for the first few months of the season. But Emery still likes him. But the way Villa are in the climate, they are no player safe. So even if they did get sold, then even if he had to go, then he would have to go reluctantly. But Emery still really calls on him as a player who's so important to him. The spine of the team, so important. Martinez, McGinn, Konsa, Watkins. These are the leaders really. And I think it's weird to see the criticism for Watkins. He seems to be the real lightning rod. But maybe if Duran didn't turn up, then there wouldn't be that criticism. But I can understand he does miss a lot of chances, and as a striker, you get paid the most usually, so you're probably going to have the most pressure on you. So that's how it works. But I think he's been a really good servant, and I'm sure towards the end of the season he can score 7, 8, 9 more.
Well, he's going to score tonight. He's going to score tonight, and Marcus Rashford is going to score tonight. That's my prediction ahead of Liverpool. I've got a good feeling for both. Watkins got a decent record against Liverpool, actually, and so has Rashford. So I fancy both of them to get on the score sheet against Liverpool tonight. Don't necessarily think it's a bad time to play Liverpool, either a jam-packed, raucous Villa Park. So yeah, looking forward to tonight, as I'm sure you are, Jacob. Jacob, thank you ever so much for joining me, my fellow writer. Great to have you on. We'll be back. I have to try and do some form of show tomorrow, post Liverpool, but I know I've got very busy day, so we'll see what occurs. No reviews on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts. Sorry, keep asking for them, and no one's doing it. So if you could do that, that would be absolutely fantastic. And leave us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Comment with your thoughts in the comments on YouTube, and like and subscribe with your post notifications on. For those of you going to Villa Park tonight, I will see you there, as will Jacob. Well past his fitness doubts now, so Jacob's obviously going to be there as well. Have a good day leading up to the game. If you're watching or listening after the game, hopefully we've won and Ollie Watkins has scored a hat-trick, and this whole podcast is absolutely pointless. That's my hope, and everyone loves him again. But yeah, for now, just have a good day, and yeah, we'll speak soon. Bye.